time to turn the pages. It's time to type it right. It's time to get things started on the most booktational, inspirational Once Upon an Author show. Here's your host, Danielle M. Orsino. Yay!
Let's up, so you got your head in the clouds. You made a fool out of you, and boy, she's bringing you down. She made your heart melt, but
The truth isn't as simple as it seems. It's tangled, messy, and sometimes buried under the lies people tell themselves. Jessica Jones. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Once Upon an Author. I'm your host, Danielle M. Orsino. All right, everybody, let's jump into it because I know we've been getting juicy and we're going to continue the pattern. As I mentioned in the previous episode, the publishing company, my second one, yeah, I know, number 2, I got it. The company was completely run by other authors that were being published. They weren't people that were previously published. They were current authors. So it was a little incestuous. Everybody was connected. And you can imagine people were trying to make friends to get favors. All right, I got it. I figured it out. And eventually I was pulled in, and we're going to get into that total disaster on another episode, trust me. But what struck me when I was first signed was everybody was following each other on Instagram and whatever. I didn't have Facebook at the time. I wanted nothing to do with Facebook because one social media was enough for me. I had my friends set up my Instagram because I so didn't want to be part of it. I was just, I was off the grid. I didn't want to be bothered. But I wasn't getting any love, like at all. Nobody wanted to follow me. Nobody wanted me following them. And I was like, all right. But I thought maybe that's just they don't know me, whatever. Got it. So probably about a year and a half in, maybe 2, I became friends with another author who I was told was very problematic, pain in the neck to deal with, all this stuff. I found her to be a delight. I had no issues. But as we became friends, she finally said, hey, look, I got to tell you something. It turned out it was such a lie. I didn't even know what to do. It was that bad. But the reason why no other authors wanted to talk to me, I would find my replies and my likes like undone. That's how bad it would get. Apparently, just 2 or 3 weeks after I was signed, back in that July, there was some kind of con. They went to these horror cons or something in Florida because that's where they were based. My friend was at it. And one of the other authors went up to her and was like, oh, did you hear about this chick we signed? She's the reason why we're not getting into one of the #1 brick and mortar chains. And so my friend was like, well, what are you talking about? She wasn't one for gossip, so she was kind of like, yeah, whatever. So the other author continued to explain that when she went to the CEO and the CFO and was like, how come we're not in this big store? Like I've tried to get in, whatever. They said, well, we just signed a very problematic author. We're trying to straighten her out. But her issues with the Vatican, yes, you heard me right, the Vatican, because the Pope has time for me. You know what I'm saying? Riding around his little Pope mobile with his hat, he's thinking about Danielle Orsino and her fae books. Right. Because of course that's happening. They're not taking us because of that author. But don't worry, we're going to straighten it out.
Say what?
Okay. Once again, let this sink in for a second. A publishing company that prides itself on transparency and being there for you is telling other authors they're not getting in because of this. Now, 2 reasons why this is crazy. Well, it's just crazy. But besides that, they're a print on demand. Barnes & Noble doesn't love print on demands. If Borders was around, Borders wouldn't love it. A lot of big chain stores, they don't love print on demand. It's just a snobby thing. They're getting better about it, but they don't love it because it's more paperwork. It's just a pain in the neck. So that wasn't That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to have a certain retail percentage that they're going to make. It's not a 50-50 split. It's not it's not a 40-60. It can be, but it always has to be in their advantage. So if you try to, settle something that's more in your advantage, they're not going to take it. The company didn't toggle the right button. They needed a 55% split. They didn't do that. That's all it was. Yeah. So I got blamed. And this went on for a very long time until they finally bit the bullet and did the 55% split. Now, even then, a lot of us weren't getting in. You had to physically go into your local store, explain you were a local author, blah, blah, blah. Now, this other author did eventually get in and did a bunch of signings and was happy. But up to this point, for a very long time, I was blamed. I had authors who were literally waiting to kick my butt and have a confrontation about this because I was bringing them down. This is why I wasn't getting any love on Instagram. People wanted to keep, their distance. I get it. You wouldn't want to touch the fire. According to them, I was coming in hot. Okay. All right. So the authors were angry. Arguably so, I get it. If that wasn't enough, other rumors were flying. Apparently, I had insisted on being on my covers. I needed to be a cosplay cover girl. Remember, I explained to you, it wasn't my idea. I had already paid for a cover. I already had this whole idea, this plan. This was their idea. But instead, it was put out that I insisted on being on them, that I had to be on the covers. I was the next Fabio of fantasy. All of the things that they told me, they told them that it was my insisting. Yes. Now, anybody who knows me, I'm 5'0". I am not struggling to get myself out there as a model. Okay. It's just not happening. I'm well aware that I'm the size of a Smurf. And that's about all I would ever get. All right. If they were looking for a Smurfette or a Sassette, yeah, I'm your girl. That's it. Okay. Nobody's looking for me to be on the cover of anything. But okay. All right. So the gossip kept going. But at this point, I'm gearing up for book 2, Thine Eyes of Mercy. So I don't really get it. I am not getting the social media announcements that I'm promised. It's just recycled posts from my content, from book tours that I paid for. Now, what I find out is behind the scenes, like I told you, marketing person is an author and has made friends with books that are like theirs. My book is not like theirs. So once again, I didn't find out this for like a year and a half, maybe 2 by the time the whole thing is said and done. So I'm trying to get over that. I'm still processing that, to be very honest with you. I'm still processing that, but I'm out, so it's okay. But the big deal with this, I got the rumors. All right, I can't change what people think. As RuPaul says, if you ain't paying my bills, I ain't paying you no mind. In this case, they kind of were paying my bills, so I kind of did have to pay them some mind. So, Ru, you and I are going to have to discuss this someday. But what people think of me is none of my business, unless you're writing me a review. Then it's a little bit my business. But I got the cover for book 2. Remember, I was supposed to have some say in it? Because I'm on the cover. If you are watching this, I'm going to hold up the cover of book 2. If you are listening, when you are done with this, either go to WWDB's Facebook page so you can see this, or go to my YouTube page and you will see the cover. And there, I will also show you the original cover that I had planned so you can kind of get an idea. So I'm holding it up right now. Let's back this up so everybody can kind of see. There we go. This is book 2, Thine Eyes of Mercy. There I am in all my Aurora glory. Here is one of my dragons, that's Dragor. Does this scream Tudor England? Nah, I didn't think so. Didn't scream Tudor England to me either. I'll be very honest with you. But it was already done. Couldn't do anything about it. Dragor really isn't a big deal in this book at all. Maybe toward the end. But The big deal in this book is Queen Mary I and Aurora. They got some issues. And Bishop Awin. Those are your main characters in this book. I don't know why there's a dragon on the cover. I'll be honest. I have no idea. I'm trying to get the point across that it's Tudor times, which is a big draw. I don't think that cover says it, but once again, I have nothing to do with this. So it goes out. Okay. And Los is pretty big because Los is always a big deal, but he's not a big dragon. He's a little guy. You know, for those of you who are X-Men fans, he's like Lockheed. He's small. All right, whatever, I deal with it. Now, we went through a significant round of edits before the publisher ever got it because I had learned my lesson. So Cleet does developmental edits, and then Christine, I found Christine, she's wonderful. She did line edits and copy edit. So this thing's pristine. Now, I will be honest with you, I made some mistakes in this book before the publisher ever got it. I wrote all of the Tudor scenes in Old English. I know, I thought I was being authentic, you know, Deborah Harkness, all that stuff. Cleet wanted to wring my neck for doing this. I really thought I was being so genuine. I got wrapped up in myself and I got high and mighty. Christine was just not having me at all. She literally gave me a certain number of thy, thou, prithee. That's it. She was like, this is all got to go. Nobody can read this. She's like, it's literally unreadable. She's like, you gave me Shakespeare. It's BS. Once again, I really thought, I'm doing this. People are going to love this. It's so authentic. I can go down a bit of a rabbit hole when I'm trying to be super authentic because once again, let's go back. I started this journey as a nurse. So research kind of a thing. And I'm trying to prove to everybody that I've jumped to the next level as an author. So I've come locked out of heaven. I'm now trying to show some growth. So I think doing these Tudor scenes in Old English is really going to prove something. Nobody cared. Nobody. Like nothing. Okay. The second thing I did was I was trying to nail all the historical stuff. So I did my research on Queen Mary. I went and took a Tudor etiquette class online in the UK. Learned everything I could about Tudor times and how they did things, how they ate, how they bathed, how they'd wash their sheets. You don't want to know about how they wash their sheets, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know. You really don't. We'll get into that another time. You can write me if you want to know. I will give you the recipe. I actually have it. It involves a lot of urine and lavender extract. Lavender oil, okay? And leaving it out in the sun for a while. I tried it. Yeah, I know. Give me all the ills and the icks. My husband was ready to wring my neck. He couldn't wait for this book to be done. I found out how they bathed. They bathed in muslin tunics. To eat, they ate family style, and you had to wash your hands in rose water in front of everybody before you could even sit down and prove you were clean. You wore your napkin on your left side. If you were well off and a man, not a woman, you had a leather satchel with your utensils to prove to everybody you had silverware. It was things like that. How you got laced into a corset properly. I had a gown, did all of it. I don't know how those women survived, but I tried everything. Found out how Queen Mary actually rode horseback because she did not ride side saddle. She would ride until she was out of sight, and then she would hide a different saddle and breeches. And when she was out of sight, she would ride legs apart. I forgot what the real name of it is, but you get what I'm saying. I did all of this. I went as far as to build Bishop Awin's staff. My husband did put the brakes on me getting a citrine crystal cluster because that was a lot of money and mounting it on a piece of wood. At that point, he put the brakes, but I learned resin instead. Yeah, because I needed to do this in the middle of writing books. I had to stop and learn resin casting. Why not? Once again, rabbit hole down me. Okay. After all this, and me getting a little carried away with my authenticity, I still do it. I'm going to be honest, I still do it. Wait till we get to volume 2, guys. You have no idea what I've done. I'm not allowed around a certain military base that's been decommissioned because of my research, because I've gone that crazy. But, oh, in the dragon episode, oh, that's going to be good. But instead of all this meaningful feedback, after it went to Christina, which I got meaningful feedback, it went to publisher. Once again, I just got paragraphs about the baby swan. Remember the whole Gosling issue? Okay, yeah. We got stuff like that, the trees. And then I got my first lesson in trigger warnings. Does anybody know about trigger warnings? I did not know about them, but I found out a lot of things. I found out that this was something I needed to consider. But I was writing a fantasy book about dragons, fae, political intrigue, and then my cute little loaf. So, like, I didn't think I needed to know it. But I made a crucial mistake. I killed an animal in the book. It happened off page, but apparently this is very traumatic for people. So, it was considered unsettling. I couldn't understand it. It was emotionally damaging, they said to some people, and all of this stuff. And I had to be sensitive, and I wanted to be sensitive. But I'm being told to add these trigger warnings for this reason and that reason. In the end, I didn't add them. But because I didn't add them, and because I have religious issues, I deal with religious issues, I was told I could never be a young adult. Now, think about this. You can add as much smut as you want to a young adult book, but gosh forbid you take on any like philosophical questions. I can't be a young adult. And I bought into it 100% on me. I agreed with them. I was like, oh, okay, you guys know best. I was never a young adult. I was going up against Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones I was going up against. Like, this was going to go somewhere. Okay. So, since then, I've pulled myself out of these big mythological categories with adults. And since then, I've been in young adult since I've left, and I've been #1 in my young adult categories. Ta-da! So the other side didn't always know what's badass. I have no idea why they did that. I really don't. Because any research would have told you I could be in that, because my characters were dealing with young adult issues, finding their identity, things like that. So whatever. I also I love cliffhangers. I love ending on cliffhangers. I used to watch the show Heroes before it got bad. And I liked that every episode kind of ended on this idea of, okay, I get that you wrapped this up, but what the heck's going on this show? I wanted to give you that feeling of the books. And I always knew another installment was coming quick, so I didn't mind leaving you hanging a little bit. Yeah, I know. I know. But I wasn't getting feedback from the publisher. Like, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? I was just kind of flying blind on this whole thing. I was ending the books with little notes, kind of my Stan Lee moment. It's my, to my readers, like, hey, don't worry, next book is coming. This is the name of it. You guys don't have to worry. Hit me up, whatever. But I was just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it stuck, because there was no feedback. Nothing. I didn't know sales figures. I didn't know, is the ebook doing better than the paperback? And they were releasing hardback at the same time. I had no idea. But before all that happens, remember I told you do the PDF, like they send you a PDF for typeset? They sent it to me. And I looked at it quick and was like, yeah, it looks good. The illustrations are in the right place, blah, 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 sent it back. So I got my paperback. And as I'm thumbing through it, there are little boxes with X's sporadically through the book. I'm freaking out because this is done. It's printed. It's done. It's on its way. They're saying they have no idea what happened. I find out literally 3 months ago, I found this out. That mistake is a common mistake for typeset. It happens with a certain font when you have like 2 T's. Most Professional typesetters know it, and they do a search for it. It's a well-known thing. Me? I had to pay $40 for every X I found because I should have found it, they said it in the PDF, and they had no idea why it was happening. $40. Do you know how many X's there were? And that wasn't the first time it would happen. It would happen in other books. Yep. Take that all in. And remember, that $40 is going on my bill. It's not like I'm taking it out of my pocket and saying, here, so I'll get a royalty back. No. I'm just getting a bill. It's just going on my charge. Just like a record. It's just going there. Shoot me. On a higher note, Thine Eyes then starts kind of catching some steam because I'm doing book tours. I'm paying for them. Jarvok's doing pretty good. He's being well received. Tudor England is great. I decide I want to do an audiobook because I did one for Locked Out of Heaven that I paid for with Skyboat Media. I tell them I want to do it. Publisher says, no, you're not going back to Skyboat. They give me this whole song and dance, and one day we'll do something on that. Instead, they tell me, we've got somebody. Yeah, you know where this is going, guys. You can figure this out. Another author. They don't tell me she's another author. I have to do a whole voice memo thing, like, hey, this is how you pronounce Illuminaska. This happens at the Foralina Forest. I do this whole, thing. She never opens it, records Thine Eyes of Mercy and From the Ashes, and doesn't listen. Asa sounds like an old woman. She's my third in command of the Court of Dark. She's a heavy hitter. She sounds like an old lady. Zion, who's the second in command, sounds like an elf that should be on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Aurora, I don't know, just changes her voice every other paragraph. I cried because people were used to Locked Out of Heaven's production. Not this. It is pulled. It takes me months to get it pulled, but I'm still charged for it. Now we got to figure out what to do with those charges. Really, you got to figure out what to do with those charges. She never opened the voice memos. Told us she did. I find out she was recording the CFO's book and someone else's who's high up in the food chain. I know. It was such a dysfunctional family. I swear somebody could do a reality show on it, or like a psych major could come in and write a paper about it. It was that bad. But that was done. We're going to get into From the Ashes, my third book, and I got a lot to say about that because it will lead into my dragons. But for right now, I promise behind the scenes. So let's get into that. Behind the scenes for Thine Eyes of Mercy, it had a rock anthem. So, behind the scenes, Thine Eyes of Mercy, rock anthem. I know that doesn't go together, right? But yes, my incredibly wonderful, talented friend, Jacob Rivera, who you probably have heard if you followed me or even gotten the audiobooks, the Chaos Be With You Gregorian chant, that is his amazing operatic voice. He's an opera singer. He's just got this gift. That's all I could say. But he wrote a song using the Thine Eyes of Mercy prayer, which was actually Queen Mary's favorite prayer. That's where we pulled it from. He did this whole incredible rock anthem. Sang it. We never released it. We've just held on to it. We thought maybe one day, but it's sitting there. So Thine Eyes of Mercy actually has a theme song. So I keep thinking about it, and who knows, maybe one day we'll bring it out. You guys let me know. Maybe let me know. Is that something you'd like to hear? Is anybody interested in that? So let's get into everything else. Let's do our writer's tip. When working with an editor or publishing team, it is crucial to have open lines of communication. As the author, you should always feel empowered to voice your concerns, ask questions, ask for feedback, and give feedback. If you're not in the loop, bad sign. It can lead to confusion on your part, frustration. You have to take control of your work. You need for them to know your vision, because if they don't, they're going to ask you questions and they're going to ask you to change things that maybe shouldn't be changed. You have to let them in on everything. And if they don't want to be let in, bad sign. Walk quick. Not good. I learned that lesson. Christine had read all my manuscripts even as raw as they were. So she knew exactly where the story was going. So she knew in places where she wanted me to maybe expand, she'd say, can you expand this, or are we getting an Easter egg? And we'd go back and forth on what we could and couldn't do. But here's a question on gossip. Before we close this chapter, I just want to ask this because I think we've all felt or been involved in something like this. Reflect on a time when you found yourself maybe caught up in a rumor or a gossip about someone else, whether it's a friend, colleague, maybe somebody you just don't know. How did it affect you or the situation? And what lesson did you learn from the experience? Now, maybe looking back on it, it could be even something from high school. How did gossip affect you? They say gossip is like a living thing. It can kind of invade. Yeah, I can see that. It spreads really quickly. What spreads faster? Good news or bad news? What do you find yourself talking about? If you go to a restaurant, a lot of people go, oh, it's a great place. But if they had bad service and bad food, they'll talk about it a lot longer. Same thing with gossip. If they meet somebody, oh, they're so sweet. But if they got some gossip on them, you know that conversation goes a lot longer. So think about that just a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Once Upon an Author. If you're interested in reading Thine Eyes of Mercy or any of the books, you can always get them on Kindle, on Amazon. The paperbacks are on Amazon right now as I re-release them. All of the books, though, I have released on audio first. So they are on Audible. They are done by Skyboat Media. Stefan Rudinecki, beautiful job as Jarvok. He's absolutely amazing. Gabrielle Decour, she does the female voices. It's great. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on Instagram at daniellemorsinoauthor, or you can go to my website, daniellemorsino.com. Reach out there. Ask me any questions. Maybe you want me to cover something. I would be happy to. You can check the replays of this on WWDB, on their website, on their Facebook page, or you can go to my YouTube page. All of that information can be found on my website or on my Instagram. And check out these. And like I said, I will have Onwin staff up on this episode, and I will have the original version of Thine Eyes of Mercy next week from the ashes. See you guys later. Thanks.